Hi, this is Justin from Hotspot Nymphing, and today I'm fishing a small stream. Pretty much looks like a little drainage ditch, but there are a bunch of wild brown trout in here. So let's get to it. I'm starting off with a little dry dropper up on a tag about 2 feet above a nymph. I have a little clink hammer that'll act as my indicator mostly because of how cold it is, or how cold it's been. And the reason I have about 2 feet is the prime water that's moving just slower than a foot per second is around 2 feet deep in this stream. Wherever it's moving a little bit faster, the water's going to be generally a little bit shallower, and that nymph is going to be more at an angle. And then wherever it's a little bit deeper, it's probably going to be a little bit slower, so that nymph is going to get completely down beneath, and it's going to be at its max below. At this part of Letort, the stream's really small, and there's very little cover, so it's pretty easy for fish to see me. So I stayed low, and I used a dry dropper to get a drift that was further away. It's also easier to fish a suspension rig like a dry dropper while you're laying on the ground. After about like 5 good casts into the spot, I knew there had to be a fish here, so I threw in a little bit of a tuck cast to get my nymph just a little bit deeper, and I did hook this pretty nice brown. I did lose it, but it was a cool learning experience. As soon as I hooked this fish, I tried to take it downstream so I'd have a shot at some more fish that were upstream. I did that with a lot of the fish that I caught. On this bend right here, like a lot of the bends I fished, the biggest fish ended up coming out from right next to the bank in the undercut of where all the stone is built. There's a bit of an undercut underneath all of that, and that's where those big fish can tuck up under. They're safe, and there is current coming past them, so there's a source of food. That's a great prime live. And also in non-urban areas, a lot of times there'll be a grass edge or even like a rock edge, and those fish will tuck themselves up under undercuts as well. So try and fish the undercuts. you were wondering why the fish I just released currently in the left picture looks like it's smiling, it's actually missing its maxillary. The maxillary is a bony part of the jaw that is damaged from fishermen not being careful with the fish. The fish on the right has a perfect maxillary. I figured not everyone knew that. That's a cool little fact you might recognize on a fish you catch sometime. After catching a bunch of fish on the dry dropper and establishing that that was a great technique, I did switch over to fishing a honey badger sculpin, created by Old Dominion Trout Bum. It's a great little micro streamer. I've had a few really good anglers talk to me a little bit about setting the hook with my wrist and setting it not as hard, so I've been trying that. I'm fishing 6X tippet and I don't want to break off fish, and the flies I'm fishing are so small, they have such a small point, you don't need much to get a solid hook up into the fish. And also nymphed a little bit fishing waltz worms and surveyors to match the crest bugs and sow bugs and all those crustaceans that live in a spring creek like the Letort. Look at that. Perfect. The reason I came back to this part of the Letort and I'm making a video about it is that it doesn't look like anything lives in it, let alone it being a trout stream. A few years back, there were chemicals dumped into the river and there's a massive fish kill. I've come back a few times and there seems to be more and bigger fish each time, so it is recovering nicely. This section of river could benefit from a little popularity to protect it. Near the end of the day, I decided to check out Mountain Creek, which is not too far away from Letort, just to see how it was doing. I haven't fished in a long time, so they catch a bunch of little bog browns on a few different nymphs, including some stoneflies, caddis, waltz worms, and eggs, of course. Some of the browns I caught at Mountain Creek were just absolutely beautiful. They had such orange fins, and even a few of them had like a really orange tail. It was really pretty fish. It was a little bit windy, and whenever you're making a little bit further drift of the Euro rig, you can reach out like I am right here to combat the wind and lower your rod tip a little bit. I had a nice relaxing day out on the water. I caught a bunch of fish on a bunch of different techniques, but suspending a dry dropper a little bit further away really proved itself to be effective on the Letort. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more fly fishing and fly tying content.